Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ridgeline Minerals Live Summit today, hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce Chad Peters, Ridgeline Minerals President, CEO, and Director, and Mike Harp, the company's Vice President of Exploration. Hello. Chad and Mike are going to take us through a presentation, and then afterwards we'll be moving on to a live Q&A. So as a reminder, you can submit your questions at any time on the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of the screen, and we will get to them after the presentation. You can also find a copy of this presentation available for download under the Handouts tab, which is also found on the right-hand side of your screen. And as always, this presentation is being recorded and will be available to watch afterwards on Six.com. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Chad.
Thank you, Dasha. So as many of you may have already noticed today, sorry, I got to close my emails here, making a lot of noise. So as you guys may have noticed, we signed a $20 million earn-in joint venture with Nevada Gold Mines. We announced that this morning. We're incredibly excited to be partnering with the Nevada Gold Mines team at Swift. And so Mike and I thought it would be worthwhile to walk you through the deal, why we're excited about exploration at Swift, and where we think the upside will be moving forward as we head into exploration programs with our partners at NGM. So we'll give the quick disclaimer here just because Mike and I are both geos, Mike especially, and we will probably be making some forward-looking statements. So if anyone, Mike, can you see me move to the screen, by the way? Am I switching? Is that Swift? You're muted, buddy.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, perfect. Okay, so Swift, as everyone's well aware, we staked an additional 25 square kilometers back in July of this year. So we're now a 75 square kilometer project. This all tied into consolidating the land position after we drilled the Windman Formation in our 2020 drill program. So as I mentioned, we have a $20 million earn-in that we just signed with NGM. Very excited, and we'll walk you through the deal terms in a second. The project itself is fully permitted. We have 17 plus acres of fully bonded federal and state exploration permits on the project ready to go. As we mentioned previously, we drilled the Windman Formation in 2020. Mike's going to walk you through why that was significant and why it helped, I guess you could say, entice NGM into taking a swing at this project. So moving into the deal terms. So there's kind of three primary components to this earn-in agreement with Nevada Gold Mines. The first would be that upon signing of this deal, Ridgeline will receive $372,000 and change in consideration for sunk costs and overhead that went into the project while we were putting this deal together and doing work at Swift in 2021. This first part of the deal is the initial earn-in option phase. This is a $20 million 5-year term for NGM to earn an initial 60% interest in the project. That is broken down into a 4-year initial term within that is guaranteed spending in the first 2 years of the project through December 31st of 2023. And just for example, if they were to drill $2 million worth of exploration and then decide, hey, we're not feeling the project anymore, they would still have to write us a $2 million check and give us back 100% of the project. So that's the first 2 years. That is followed by a $16 million additional guaranteed work expenditures, or not guaranteed, I apologize, but qualifying work expenditures over another 3 years for a total of $20 billion US. So what really I think, this first phase was really important for Mike and I when we kind of went and we started talking about, okay, do we want to do this deal? Does it make sense? And we realized really quickly that, okay, we drilled 2 holes last year. We proved the Windman was there, but we didn't hit a significant gold drill intercept, right? So we knew it was going to be expensive to advance this discovery. So when we started negotiating this deal, it was really important to us that $20 million was going in the ground over that 5-year period. That is more than enough to go and make a significant discovery as well as advance that discovery ahead. And so we think that's a really important part of the deal. On top of that, we will be forming a steering committee of 2 NGM members and 2 Ridgeline members, which will meet every quarter to discuss budgets, exploration strategy, look at targets. NGM has I guess you could say, final say on operatorship, where holes are being drilled. But Mike and I are going to be very, very involved with the exploration programs. We have a great relationship with the NGM team, and we're excited to kind of partner with these guys and work closely with them as they advance the project. So that's the first option. The second option is after the initial 5-year term, NGM can elect to spend another $10 million US over an additional 3 years to earn an additional 10%. So that would take them to a 70% ownership phase. And in our opinion, if they've hit 30 million in spending, we're potentially drilling the next, they're drilling the next gold rush, the next 4 Mile discovery, right? That's a significant chunk of change. So if we do hit that milestone, it means that there's been a significant discovery made, and everybody on Ridgeline's shareholder base is going to win from that. So there's a final option to the project, and I think it's, arguably it's the most important part of this entire deal, which is the development funding option. So after they've hit their 70% spend and 30 million, or 70% and 30 million, NGM can elect to then take the project fully carried to production. So that means they would have to absorb all of Ridgeline's costs. They would provide funding to support those costs all the way through to development, in which case they would then earn an additional 5% interest in the project for a total of 75%. So the end goal, I guess you could say, is if a major discovery is made, NGM can earn up to 75%. Ridgeline will retain 25%, which in our eyes is a very meaningful chunk of what could be the next gold rush, the next 4 Mile size of discovery. And, I think the really important part about all of that is we never write a check again, right? No dilution at all, fully carried interest. Ridgeline would own 25% and never have to write a check to get that thing to pouring gold. So I think that's the core part of this deal. Is it's not just about putting money in the ground early. It's about taking this thing all the way to completion, turning into an existing gold, a new gold mine. And we want to be a part of that. So it's, I think an incredible deal for our team. I think Mike would be the first person to say that as much as he and I would have loved to have put 30 holes into this project and retain 100% and own it all, it's just not feasible for a company of our size, right? So we wanted to find a partner that we were comfortable with, that we knew was going to do good exploration, and let them come in, absorb some of that risk, and hopefully go out and make a big discovery at Swift. So that's I guess you could call it the meat and potatoes of the deal. We're very excited. I'm going to have Mike take over here, and we're going to walk through why Barrick's excited and why we're excited about this project, and why we went and staked another 25 square kilometers this summer. So Mike, I'm going to pass it over to you, buddy. Go ahead. You're on mute still. There you go.
Yep. Nope. So the significance of what we did last year in our drill program in those 2 holes was not only the recognition of host rock in the area, which we knew we had at least Roberts Mountain that was assumed to be in the Shoshone Range. When we drilled these 2 holes and drilled the entire Windman package, that's what really changed it and cracked open the Shoshone Range, which historically didn't have this unit. So when you only have the Roberts Mountain Formation, you do have the potential for like a 1 to 3 million ounce deposit, still quite significant, and through going into that unit. But it's not till you get that Windman stacked on top of it in this particular area, the Cortez district of the Battle Mountain Trend, that the Windman becomes important. And once that recognition was put forward, we met with the Barrick team. They confirmed that. And that's where the excitement really started, and it opened up the whole Swift property, especially with the geochemical anomalies that we were seeing, and a mineralized intercept in a historic drill hole that Barrick was even unaware of, that Phelps Dodge had drilled and just was never followed up on, and that was 18.3 meters at 0.6 grams gold, which is nothing to shake a stick at. So not only do we have confirmed host rock that was thought not to be there, we have a confirmed intercept in that rock in the historic drill hole. So that's what really lit this project up for us and for Barrick, and why NGM is interested in coming in on this project. Early stage wise, we had significant drilling come through, but in the long run, we opened up an entire area that was thought to be closed off for this particular unit. That's why we staked the additional ground and made sure our entire property package was shored up before we did any additional work in this area. And that's what we did. And so the significance of this is we've upgraded this thing to possibly a 5 to 10 million ounce potential deposit, and Barrick recognized that. And in the long run, the obvious suitor on this trend is NGM. They control this area, and this was the next big project on that trend.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like the last 2 big discoveries in the Cortez district, both Gold Rush and 4 Mile, these are deeper discoveries. They took a long time to make. Even the 4 Mile discovery, for example, that took over 12 drill holes. Now these things are at least $500,000 to $600,000 per drill hole. I mean, you can do the math, right? We're talking $5 to $6 million US just to make a discovery. What this deal does for us is not only does it validate our exploration thesis at Swift, at our other projects as well. I think it shows that we're doing quality work. But, it also allows Barrick to come, or NGM, Mike and I keep on saying that. They're kind of one and the same nowadays. But NGM, it allows them to come in and they can be really aggressive on this project. Our team's going to provide our input. And we're really excited to hopefully go out and make a major discovery here. I mean, there's every indicator on the project, like Mike said, indicates that there is great potential for there to be a massive discovery on this project. We have the host rocks, we have mineralized system, we have large intrusive activity all the way across the project that we've actually age dated to the same age as the intrusions, the Gold Acres intrusion, down at Cortez Hills. I mean, all of the key framework pieces that a group like NGM is looking for, or us, coming into an early stage project, they exist at Swift. And so, it's, for us, not only does it allow us to see Swift moved forward aggressively, but it also allows us to begin moving our other projects forward. Now, that's one less cash burn. It's an expensive project to hold, 75 square kilometers. That's money that we can be putting into Selena, to Carlin-East, towards making new acquisitions. That's, some of which we've already identified in Nevada, and we would like to be moving on. But this gives us a lot of flexibility. So, moving into just looking down the trend, you can see how big this land package is. I mean, you zoom in a little bit. Our project in itself could host both 4 Mile Gold Rush and Cortez Hills in the scale and the size of our project, right? So there's room for multiple discoveries here. And, you move closer to, I mean, even just... Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say that potential really does exist. There's major anticlines on this property that remain untested, and that would be off of the Elder Creek, would be the apophyse of a lower Carlin type system below, and what would be considered not very good host rocks. And so you're seeing an oxide mine in these upper plate rocks, and that sitting right on the axis of the Goat anticline, which is another prime target on this property package. And like Chad said, I really do like this project. There's a lot going for it, but to make sure that this project was to get across the finish line, this was a great way to do that and benefit not only the shareholders, but both parties. To make sure that Ridgeline is not a torchbearer for this project, we take it to the finish line, which is what a lot of juniors can't get to, is that finish line product. And recognizing the expensive holes, the deeper drilling, and the fact that we went from a 727 meter intercept in the whole old Phelps Dodge hole to intersecting this rock unit at 400 meters, showing that there's a shallower potential to this as well. And that's really what we liked about the project. And with this project moving forward and having the cash spend that it deserves, allows me to get back on, me and the team to get back onto Selena and move that one forward, new property acquisitions, and then working on Carlin-East, which we're still drilling at the moment. So it's good to put it into Nevada Gold Mines' hands. They have the ability to do this, the bandwidth, and the team that's got the experience on the Windman rocks. And I'm excited to work with them and get this thing moving forward and have it pouring gold bars in the end.
Absolutely. So, Mike, can you see me notating on the screen? Is it showing up?
Yes.
It is? Awesome. Okay, so this is the gravity high that we originally identified back in 2019 when we first did our survey, saying, wow, that's probably a big chunk of carbonate rocks. All the historic drilling elsewhere on the project, it focused on the deeper parts of these anomalies. That's why, the only known lower plate intercept on this side was at almost 800 meters depth. It was on the wrong side of that fault zone. Same thing over here. You're almost 600 meters deep at the Elder Creek mine. We felt we could come in. We thought, okay, we're going to hit somewhere between 450 meters and, 4 to 450 meters and hopefully hit what we think would be preserved Windman Formation. And that's exactly what we hit. So when you look, we're going to look at a cross section. Well, actually, we'll look at arsenic and soils first, because this is what got Mike really excited when we first looked at it. When we picked up this project, what, Mike, probably about this much of the soils anomaly existed?
Yes, that's agreed. Yep.
So that was there's a little chunk of soil samples that had been taken in the 1990s by Phelps Dodge. And we saw it and went, wow, there's up to 1,500 ppm arsenic running through the core of the Mill Creek target here. That's sitting directly over top of that historic drill intercept that drilled 18 meters at 0.7 grams per ton, never got followed up on. We went in, did a whole bunch of soil sampling throughout the target project that we owned at the time. Everywhere where you don't see soil sampling now is new ground that we've acquired as part of that 25 square kilometer chunk of ground. And what we realized is like Mike mentioned, there's this big anticline ripping right through. So there's an anticline here, and there's a parallel goat anticline sitting right here. So you got two parallel anticlines cutting across the project. This guy is probably, the Mill Creek one is probably on the left, is a little bit of a tighter, smaller anticline, with the more regional large anticline on the goat side being the big guy. But you look at this and you go, okay, right along the axis of this anticline is a 4 kilometer long arsenic and soils anomaly, gold, antimony, you name it, they're all there. That is one of the strongest we've seen in an upper plate target in a long time. One single drill hole to test it, and it had gold in it. So I think that's, again, what kind of drew in, it's what got us excited. It's why we drilled the holes in the first place. And then when NGM approached us and said they were interested in looking at this project, I mean, it just made perfect sense. So, one of the things that I think is worth pointing out is on the edge of that anticline, there's a barite mine right here. There's a gold mine right here. One anticline hinge cuts right through the barite mine. The other one cuts through the gold mine. So there is, there's proven structures, this kind of structure you want to see for large regional scale targets. You got the structure. We know we got gold at depth. We now know we have the right host rocks. There's a big intrusion sitting here. Another guy sitting on the other side of the project. I mean, like we said, this system is just set up. It's the perfect setup for a big discovery to be made. So really excited for these guys to come and take a shot at it. And if we look at the cross section cutting across right here, here's what our initial interpretation looked like. So if you take a look, what Mike mentioned previously about us drilling the Windman Formation, well, that's everything in light blue here, right? So we were able to actually hit our first intercept at 400 meters. I mean, Mike, we spent 2 weeks going back and forth through the core. I mean, we weren't sure initially what we were in. We knew we were in lower plate. We didn't know whether it was Windman or Roberts. And
That's correct.
And
that's where a lot of the mistake from the older interpretations came from. They were trying to make Windman fit into the Roberts Mountain package, and they couldn't do it. So there was a lot of confusion on what was going on there. And the actual host units, the most preferential is anywhere from the unit 7 into the 5, and then even down below that as well. But the 5 being the main host unit on most of the Carlin trend in the Windman. And so, these rocks are very confusing when you're trying to fit them into a box they don't belong into. And so it was that reinterpretation using the good geology that had been done over the last couple of years in the district, from our other colleagues and peers, and applying that to this district and understanding what we had. And then, like Chad said earlier, the identification of multiphasic intrusive material, both all the way from the Jurassic into the Eocene. And that's important too, because you need to have those rocks as part of this system, showing that you have some sort of engine or fluid flow in these rocks. And so that's what's really exciting about this whole project and why we always loved it as much as we did. And, 3 holes getting down here was pretty difficult for a smaller guy like us. And so I'm really excited to see this thing get the drilling that it really deserves. And man, there's something at that Mill Creek target, I'm telling you. So
yeah, I feel like some other people feel the same way. So no, it says 16 meters of 0.7 here. I think the larger intercept is 18 meters of 0.6, but we're splitting hairs. So I forgot to update that, everybody. But I think this fits into kind of exactly our business model, right? Like we've come in, we've acquired some core land positions at Selena, at Carlin-East, at Swift. We've reinterpreted the geology. Mike and his team have done just an incredible job of just really tearing these projects down to the bare studs and then building them back up, just based truly on just systematic geology, not focusing on any bias historically, folks' ideas of where gold is and where it isn't in Nevada, which if anyone's worked in Nevada, that's a prevalent driving force to exploration in Nevada is there's a lot of dogma. So we really tried to keep just a clear focus on this project. I think we proved a really exciting concept here. NGM obviously feels the same, and I think it's going to be an incredible couple of years here. I mean, $4 million is going in the ground. I mean, let's not forget, right now we're trading at about 50 cents. That means I'd have to issue 8 million shares. No, sorry, closer to 10 because that'd be Canadian dollars. Closer to 9.5 to 10 million shares just to put the same amount of dollars in the ground as what NGM is funding 100% on this project. So it's a great deal for us. It's a great deal for our shareholders. And the geology's all there. We've teed it up. I think it's time to just kind of sit back and see what the NGM folks can do with it. So we're really excited. So, this is a fairly quick breakdown today. Really, we just wanted to highlight this deal, talk about Swift a little bit, what we're excited about. Obviously, some of the catalysts that we have moving forward. Obviously went through the 20 million earn in with Nevada Gold Mines. We're drilling at Carlin-East right now. I think Mike's heading out to the rig, aren't you, right after the thing?
Right after this, yeah.
Mike, he's got a 2-hour drive out to the rig. And then heading into Q4, we're going to have results coming out of Carlin-East. We have metallurgy and permitting initiatives at Selena. And, I think another important part of all this is we can focus on some of our other projects now. I mean, I think we did the math there, Mike, and with the geos we have on staff, each of you had 50 square kilometers in Nevada. That would be solely your responsibility for exploring at this point. If prior to doing this NGM deal, it's too big, right? So now we're in a position where we can really focus in on some of our flagship assets. Swift is now a fully funded lottery ticket, if you want to look at it in a very simple view. And I think we got the best team in Nevada working on it. So I think we'll pass it over to some questions. Anyone wants to walk through the model, we're here.
Great, thank you so much. We're going to open the floor up to a live Q&A. So if you do have a question, feel free to submit them now. But Chad, how does this agreement align with your overall strategy?
Yeah, I think tried to touch on it a little bit there in the conversation or in this perhaps presentation, but I think what we've realized over the last little bit, we've drilled all three of our main projects now, right? We drilled 2 programs at Carlin-East. We now know that's a very expensive project to drill, very time consuming. We drilled Swift. Selena is very cheap, very quick. We've made a very exciting discovery there, and we kind of focused in on how can we best put our assets forward so that we can advance projects really quickly. And we've realized that Selena is probably our flagship asset at this point. We'll probably try to have a webinar some way down the road to talk about the CRD potential there, but just in a nutshell, we've reinterpreted the geology there, and we believe what we drilled in 2021 is the edges of what could be a very large CRD discovery at Selena. So we want to focus in on that. We can use our drilling contract to very quickly advance it, make a new discovery, and hopefully we can find the next Taylor deposit like Arizona Mining did a couple years ago. So
we've begun the initiation of a plan of operations on Selena, which will give us an additional 250 acres of disturbance to launch into the larger program there after we've moved forward in our 2022 program with the disturbance we have left under our NOI.
Yeah, and our larger business plan has always been to advance these 3 projects to a go or no go decision, figure out which ones are flagship, and then find deals, move these projects into other vehicles that can then get them moved forward. So I think this fits into the larger strategy. 2022 is going to be a primary focus on Selena, new acquisitions, and obviously I hope drilling out Carlin-East as well, but we're still drilling that program right now. So we'll see what comes from that. So yeah, big year next year.
And why are you signing this now versus Ridgeline Minerals doing more work at Swift first?
We had that, I think Mike and I fought back and forth on that for quite a while on why are we signing this now initially, right? Because, after walking through this presentation, some people probably look and say, well, geez, these targets are teed up and ready to drill. And I think that's exactly why we did sign the deal, right? Like Nevada Gold Mines, they approached us, they were excited about the project, and the time was right to go do it. If we had waited, maybe went and drilled another 2 holes, and maybe we didn't hit gold on those first 2 targets, it could have severely downgraded those targets, even if there was still great potential. And and then maybe we wouldn't have been able to get as good a deal for the company. So I think the timing was right, given this kind of the spot the project was in.
Great, yeah, thank you. And when you were with Premier Gold, you worked with Nevada Gold Mines before, I believe, on a venture. What was it like to work with them?
Yeah, no, it was 2017. We started working the last joint venture in Nevada with Nevada Gold Mines, or I guess it would have been Barrick. Precursor to that was the Premier Gold Mines JV that we did. So they were great to work with. To be honest, a lot of what I learned anyways about how to approach an early stage project actually came from working with the Barrick folks, right? Like just that systematic approach, doing all of the background work first. Mike was already doing that over at Gold Standard, I guess, but we each learn at our own pace. So no, I really enjoyed working with them. And as soon as we hit the Windman here, we kind of saw it as an opportunity we thought they'd be the perfect group to come in and do it again with.
Great. And why is hitting Windman Formation at Swift so significant?
I think you kind of covered that, Mike. Do you want to go through it again?
It's significant because that is the main host rock on this district, and without it, it severely restricts how much gold or how big your system can get. And this is an entire mountain range that was previously unknown for this unit. They thought it was gone, sheared off, missing somehow. That reinterpretation and the confirmation of that unit shows what that the potential of this project is far greater than we initially, when we started with just Roberts Mountain Formation. So that's the significance, is just making this project ripe for the picking in some of these shallower targets where we have the proper structure and these intrusives coming through. Really sets the rock up for a bigger deposit.
Great, thank you. Can you tell us how the geology at Swift lines up with the nearby properties owned by Nevada Gold Mines?
Sure. Yeah, that would be it's the identical rock package that you see at Cortez and Pipeline, and it lines up perfectly. We have almost all the rock preserved, missing some of the lower units that are not usually characteristically a host. But we were able to see that transition from that Windman into the Roberts Mountain Formation, which is the same transition that they're seeing across the basin on these other projects. And so having their team in there looking at our rock and them feeling like they were at home, that was a big deal for us. And then us knowing that our geology and our interpretation was very much aligned with theirs. And that's why I think their faith in our geology and our work that we had done so far was definitely increased based on that information. And it validated a lot of the things that we were already talking about at that point.
Great, thank you. So can we talk a bit more about the joint technical steering team? Because you have two representatives. How much input will you have on the project's direction?
Right. No, for sure. And, I think a lot of that comes down to relationships, right? Like at the end of the day, NGM is the operator. They have 100% control over budgets, where the holes are being drilled, everything, right? Like we're okay with that because we've worked with them in the past. But I think what it comes down to is Mike and I have both worked with these teams in the past. We know them well. So we believe that with this 4-person steering committee, we're going to be able to come in. There's a lot of mutual respect. If we have an idea about a target where we think some drilling should be going, yeah, they're absolutely going to take it into account. And I think a big part of that is, how much they take that into account is solely based on the kind of relationship we maintain throughout this partnership. So we're looking forward to being good partners with them. And I think it's going to be a lot of good discussion back and forth and where the holes are going to go and budgets and everything in between. Should be good.
Great. And in a perfect world, in your opinion, what will happen next at Swift?
Big discovery. Honestly, we've teed it up. We've done all the background work. Our understanding is that there'll be very little work needed to get this thing ready to drill. So we want to see a big discovery get made. And I imagine that they'll take the same approach they've been taking across all of Nevada, which is a very systematic approach, framework drilling, the whole thing. So we're hoping that in the first 12 to 18 months should be hopefully some significant news coming out of the project.
Yeah.
Great. Greg is asking, has NGM given you any indication of what they intend to spend in year one?
Not yet, no. And we're actually having our kind of initial kind of handoff meeting in the next few weeks. So we'll have better context there. But we know that they do have to spend $4 million over the next 2 years. So it will be a significant spend.
Okay, great. Thank you. Brock has a question. Are there any NSRs on the property currently, and do you have control over any of them?
Correct. Well, good question. Sorry, not correct. We do have a 3.25% NSR on the main claim block. There is an additional 3% NSR on some of the outlying claims that we've done third-party deals with when we were consolidating the ground. I believe that the net NSR is anywhere from 2.25 to 3, depending on what claim we're on. We don't control any NSRs in the project as much as we would have loved to. Unfortunately, when you're acquiring ground in the heart of the Cortez district in Nevada, the groups you acquire them from, I mean, that was the main, when we were negotiating these deals, was very low cash up front, but they did receive the royalty on the back end. Doesn't leave a lot of room for us to levy a royalty on this project, which is why we pushed hard for the carried interest in the deal. I think it was a good trade-off.
Great, thank you. And so now as we reach just the closing last minute, I wanted to know what news can we expect next from Ridgeline Minerals?
Well, Mike and the guys are going to be out mapping at Selena probably most of the fall, I think, mapping, prospecting, doing a bunch more soil sampling. So I think Selena is going to be a really big push for us heading into next year. In the near term, we have the news coming out of Carlin-East. We still haven't got those assays to the lab. We're just finishing the last hole. So we would expect results probably in late October, early November. Yeah. But yeah, those are the two main catalysts. We're also assessing other opportunities now that we've kind of freed up over, we were paying almost $400,000 in land costs a year just for the Swift land package, right? So that frees up a lot of cash for us to go out and start making some more grassroots acquisitions in Nevada, Idaho, wherever we think we can find them. But we're moving forward on that initiative as well. So lots of news coming out.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Chad and Mike, for taking us through the presentation and the Q&A. And thank you to everyone who attended and asked questions. If you do think of a question after the summit, you will be able to send in your question to directly to the Ridgeline Minerals team and get your answers. And also you can find more information at ridgelineminerals.com. And as I said, this has been recorded, and so you can rewatch it afterwards on 6.com. But in closing, I'll just pass it back to you, Chad, for any final words.
I think you covered it. I mean, Mike and I are both would love to sit down with any that want to learn more about the project. I'm C. Peters at ridgelineminerals.com. Mike's at mharp at ridgelineminerals.com. Contact us, set up a Zoom call. We'll walk you through any one of our projects. So thanks for